if you are new. So last week I did my little 100 subscriber special thing, and on that day I had 113 subscribers, and I am pleased to announce we are up to 130 subscribers. So it's pretty exciting. I'm happy about it. Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm really grateful for you guys, and I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Anyways, I guess let's get into it here. So today, there's been a few comments mentioning that they kind of want a couple videos about the occult. So I felt like we could dive into that a little bit today with this book that I've told you about, which is called the Kybalion. So I figured we could read the introduction to it today, and if we have a little bit more time left, then we can maybe read part of the first chapter or something like that. So yeah, anyways, a little bit of background on this book. This book is a book on modern Hermetic philosophy, which basically Hermeticism is something that derived in Egypt. Basically, it's based around Hermes Trismegistus, who was a man back in Egypt or whatever. I mean, he was revered as Hermes, the god, the Greek god. I think they're one and the same. I could be confused, but anyways. And if you know anything about this, let me know if I'm wrong. But so yeah, Hermeticism kind of derived out of Egypt, and it is the basis for the Western esoteric occult system. And what Western esotericism is a form of ritual or ceremonial magic. It's a broad umbrella term for that style of magic. And it's basically the goal with ceremonial magic is not so much daily life cures, or like, it's not necessarily for like healing or love or protection, stuff like that. Like that's more what you would consider folk magic. But what ceremonial magic looks to achieve, is enlightenment, kind of similar to the Buddhist path, but it goes a bit further. So basically, the goal with ceremonial magic is learning your true self, your highest self, and learning the secrets of the divine and the unseen world around us. That's kind of the goal with ceremonial magic. And I mean, within that, it comes with, other things, that are more folk magic-y, but that is basically the basis for the goal of what ceremonial magic is. And that is what ceremonial magicians try to achieve. And this all kind of comes from Hermeticism. Pretty much all Western magical systems have derived from Hermeticism in one way or another. Just to name a few popular ones, Wicca, or modern witchcraft. A lot of paganism traditions have a lot of Hermetic influences. Thelema, which is Aleister Crowley's organized religion. You have Freemasonry, which has a lot of tenets and philosophy of Hermeticism built into it. Some other secret societies as well. But yeah, basically it's a wide umbrella. It's kind of the source of all magical processes, I guess. Sorry, I'm kind of walking around in circles. Or talking around in circles, whatever I'm doing. Anyways, I mean, so we didn't know how the sprinkler system worked, and we had just gotten a lawnmower, and we just got a weed whacker yesterday, and so it just took a little time for us to get settled in and actually figure out our process for keeping our landscaping up. But yeah, we mowed our lawn and weed whacked the edges and watered the lawn and raked up the grass and stuff that was loose, and yeah, so it was productive. It was good. Anyways, though, okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. I don't know why I'm taking so long to, but yeah. So the full title is The Kybalion, Hermetic Philosophy, by a pseudonym of the three initiates. This is the centenary edition. I don't know what that means. Anyways, so yeah, let's go ahead and we'll get started with the introduction here. Give you guys a little page turning sound for a second there. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up a little bit of it. But anyways, so Introduction to the Centenary Edition by Richard Smalley. People grazing in metaphysical shops and metaphysical bookshops may have wondered about the mysterious volume called the Kybalion, written by three initiates and first issued by the Yogi Publication Society of Chicago in 1908. The best-known edition is a plain volume bound in blue cloth and stamped with gold in a format like those of other books from the same publisher, including various works on yoga by one Swami Ramacharaka. The Kybalion claims to be a brief introduction to a mystical tradition that has survived from antiquity. The core of the work is a series of aphorisms which the authors contend to go back to the early days and were passed on from teacher to student. The exact signification and meaning of the terms have been lost for several centuries. The word Kybalion, taken at face value, looks vaguely Greek but has no meaning in that language. The closest word to it in the standard Greek lexicon, curiously, is Kybeia, something like that, meaning dice game. It is also tempting to connect this word with the Jewish mystical tradition known as the Kabbalah, especially given that early modern occult texts such as the 17th century English translation of Cornelius Agrippa's The Three Books of Occult Philosophy, sometimes as a Hebrew word for Kabbalists, Mekubalim. But the Kabbalah is never mentioned in the Kybalion. Rather, it presents itself as the essence of the teaching. Hair in my mouth. Sorry. Rather, it presents itself as the essence of the teaching of Hermes Trismegistus, thrice greatest Hermes, a legendary semi-divine figure who is said to have brought learning to Egypt in the remotest past. Hermes Trismegistus is often identified with both the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. The Kybalion is organized according to 7 basic principles, which it says form the basis of occult philosophy. Number 1, mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Number 2, correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. Number 3, vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves. Everything vibrates. Polarity. Number 4, polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Number 5, rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. Number 6, cause and effect. cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. And finally, number 7, gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The origins of this book have mystified many. Scholar Philip Dislippe, something like that, argues convincingly, I believe, that it was written by William Walker Atkinson, who operated the Yogi Publication Society in Chicago. He is also thought to be Swami Ramacharaka, as the first principle, mentalism, suggests. The ideas of the Kybalion bear some resemblance to New Thought, a movement to which Atkinson was closely connected. The universe, the Kybalion tells us, is contained in the mind of the All. The All creates the universe mentally, in a manner akin to the process whereby man creates mental images. This idea is central to practically all New Thought teachings. Nevertheless, the book does echo a more remote past. The term the All, for example, resembles the Greek tupon, which also means the All, and which appears in some Hermetic maxims, most famously en topan, all is one. Given the claims made for it, the most obvious source to examine for the roots of the Kybalion is the Corpus Hermeticum, or Hermetic body of texts. These were composed, probably in the early centuries CE, and purport to expound the wisdom of Egypt as narrated in a series of discourses and dialogues, including Hermes and his son Tut, a version of Thoth. And indeed, there are intriguing resemblances between these works and the Kybalion. The first text in the Corpus Hermeticum, the Poimandres, probably a Greek adaptation of the Egyptian Pe Me Nere, something like that, or Mind of Authority, tells us that the source of the universe was nous, consciousness or mind, much as the Kybalion asserts the principle of mentalism. Moreover, this divine mind is described as being androgyne and existing as light and life, which parallels the concept of gender as set out in the Kybalion. The Kybalion also speaks of the principle of correspondence. This idea appears in another ancient Hermetic text, the extremely brief and elliptical Emerald Tablet, which says in Latin, Quod est superius est sicut quod est invarius, et quod est invarius est sicut est superius, ad perpetranda miracula rei unius. What is above? This is in English. This is that phrase in English. What is above is like what is below, and what is below is like what is above, to enact the wonders of the one thing. The Emerald Tablet is said to have originally been written in Syriac, a Semitic language spoken in the eastern Mediterranean world in antiquity, but it survives only in somewhat dissimilar translations in Latin and Arabic. Whether there really was a collection of aphorisms known as the Kybalion and passed down from master to pupil from the days of antiquity is hard to say. There are, to my knowledge, no copies of it or any references to it that predate the 1908 edition, but that does not mean there were none, and there are claims of similarly hidden texts in other traditions. The Russian esotericist Boris Moraviev claimed that esoteric Christianity has an unpublished set of aphorisms called the Golden Book, some of which he quotes is in his 3-volume work, Gnosis, Study and Commentaries on the Esoteric Tradition of Eastern Orthodoxy, although these do not resemble the Maxisms of the Kybalion to any degree. As for the author, William Walker Atkinson, 1862 to 1932, was born in Baltimore, Maryland. After an abortive career as a lawyer, he moved to Chicago with his family in 1900 and lived there for most of the rest of his life. He began writing books and articles in the vein of New Thought, a movement that stresses power of the mind in creating reality. His first book, Thought Force, was published in 1901. Most of Atkinson's books were published pseudonymously, like with a pseudonym. In 1903, he began writing under the name Yogi Ramacharaka, and in 1908, the Kybalion appeared, ascribed to 3 initiates. The publisher was Atkinson's own Chicago-based Yogi Publication Society. The identity of these 3 initiates has long been a puzzle. Many candidates have been named, notably the occultist Paul Foster Case, founder of the society known as Builders of the Adytum, but as Philip Deslip's research has shown, the book almost certainly had a single author, and that was Atkinson. Indeed, in 1917, for a French edition, the translator identified the author as Le Maitre Psychiste Américain W.W. Atkinson. I don't know how to speak French. I'm doing my best, okay? The Kybalion quotes a number of sources from Atkinson's time. Thomas J. Hudson's 1893 work, The Law of Psychic Phenomena, Rama Prasada's 1890 title, The Science of Breath and Philosophy of the Tatwas, as well as philosophers William James and Herbert Spencer. But its chief source probably lie elsewhere. In a 2009 blog posting, tarot scholar Mary K. Greer suggests a plausible source for the Kybalion. In 1885, Anna Kingsford, an Englishwoman who founded an organization called the Hermetic Society, published a book titled The Virgin of the World of Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus, which contained an adaptation of the Hermetic texts. As Greer points out, this book, especially its introduction, written by Kingsford's associate Edward Maitland, offers parallels for the Kybalion's 7 principles. Number 1. Mentalism. Maitland asserts that consciousness is the indispensable condition of existence. Emphasis, Maitland's, matter is itself merely a mode of consciousness. Number 2, correspondence. From the oneness of original being comes, as a corollary, the law of correspondences between all planes or spheres of existence in virtue, which the macrocosm is at the microcosm, the universal as the individual, the world as man, and man as God. Vibration. The Kybalion formulates this principle thus: nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This idea echoes a passage in one of the Hermetic texts. There is nothing immutable, nothing stable, nothing unchanging in nature, either in the heavens or the earth. Number 4, polarity. Maitland writes, all being modes of the one, no inherent antagonism or essential difference is possible. Total unconsciousness is not being and bears to consciousness the relation of darkness to light, the latter alone of the two being, however reduced, positive entity, and darkness being non-entity. Number 5, rhythm. The Corpus Hermeticum 14 reads, order maintains the fabric of things established by destiny and necessity. For all this is an everlasting sequence without beginning or end. It rises and falls alternately, and as time rolls onward, that which has disappeared again rises uppermost. Number 6, cause and effect. Maitland refers to that inexorable law of cause which man's nature and conditions in the future are the result of the tendencies voluntarily encouraged by him in the past and present. Number 7. Gender. Maitland writes, so far from repudiating the relations of the sexes, the Hermetic doctrine exalts them as symbolizing the loftiest divine mysteries and enjoins their exercise as a duty, the fulfillment of which, in some at least of his incarnations, is essential to the full perfectionment and initiation of the individual. So, I'm going to take a break for just a second here and just basically, just want to point out how, dense this book really is. This is just the introduction, so if you're not quite following along, don't worry about it. I don't really totally understand this book, and I've read it all the way through. I need to read it again. Probably need to read it like 5 more times to really understand it. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out before we continue on. Anyways, given these resemblances, along with the Kybalion's insistence that it contains the essence of Hermetic teaching, it is very likely that Kingsford and Maitland's work was the main source for the Kybalion. But these examples also show that Atkinson was not plagiarizing the Virgin of the World. Rather, he was attempting to distill its most important principles into his own words. The style and content of the Kybalion echo those of Atkinson's other works. Here, for example, is the Kybalion. The Hermetic teachings are that not only is everything in constant movement and vibration, but that the differences between the various manifestations of the universal power are due entirely to the varying rate and mode of vibrations. Modern science has proven that all that we call matter and energy are but modes of vibratory motion. Compare this to an excerpt from a booklet entitled Practical Mental Influence and Mental Fascination, published under Atkinson's own name. Physical science teaches that underlying all forms, degrees, and apparent differences, there is to be found a manifestation of some elementary energy, which manifests in what is known as vibrations. Everything in the material world is in vibration, ever manifesting a higher degree of motion. Without vibrations, there would be no such thing as material universe. In fact, physical science itself teaches us that not only is vibration the basic force underlying other forces and the various forms of matter, but also that the apparent differences between the various forms of matter and also the various forms of energy are caused simply and solely by the varying degrees of vibration manifested. Another example, here's the Kybalion. All the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts and units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. Here is a similar message from Lessons in Nami Yoga by Atkinson, writing as Yogi Ramacharaka. This indeed is the highest conception of truth in the yogi teachings, this that all manifestation and emanations of the Absolute are mental creations of the Absolute, thought forms held in the infinite mind, the infinite spirit in them, and they in the infinite spirit. But we are left with this question. Why are the pseudonymous, I think that's how you say it, yeah, authors said to be 3 initiates? Was Atkinson collaborating with anyone else? If we go by the hypothesis that I have sketched out above, the answer becomes apparent. Atkinson wrote the book by himself, though he wanted to acknowledge his debt to Kingsford and Maitland. They were the other 2 initiates. He is not saying that they helped to write the book, which they did not do. Both of them had died by the turn of the 20th century. Atkinson is simply paying homage to them by including them in the anonymous trinity of authors. Thus, it is possible to trace out a lineage for the Kybalion, the original Hermetic texts, which have been known in the Western world since the 15th century, and which have existed in English versions since at least the 17th this work is unfaithful to the tradition it claims to lay claim to. Anyways, a spiritual tradition is based certainly on timeless and unchanging truths, but the application to which these truths are put will vary from age to age, in accordance with that age's need. In this sense, the Kybalion is a genuine link to the Hermetic chain. The Kybalion has been a central text for 20th century American occultism and spirituality. The book has been hailed in Rosicrucian and Hermetic circles and in the realm of New Thought. Florence Scovel Shinn, a popular New Thought author of the early 20th century, identified her positive thinking philosophy with the ideas of the Kybalion, and Shinn herself went on to influence probably the best-known advocate of positive thinking in the 20th century, Norman Vincent Peale. In the 21st century, the Kybalion's ideas of vibration, frequency, mental alchemy, and the law of attraction were incorporated into Rhonda Byrne's 2006 bestseller, The Secret. Given all this, how do the ideas in the Kybalion relate to tradition esoteric teaching? The most striking thing about the Kybalion is its terminology: vibration, rhythm, polarity, causation. All of these point to a scientific or quasi-scientific mode of thought. This fits the book perfectly into its context, the early 20th century, when science had established itself as the ne plus ultra of human knowledge. To be taken seriously, thinkers felt the need to frame their ideas in quasi-scientific terms and invoke the hard physical sciences in support of them. We have already seen examples in the passages quoted above on vibration, which cite modern science and physical science as authorities. On Our Own Time has its updated version of this. Metaphysical writers invoke quantum physics and relativity, often garbled in almost unrecognizable forms in much the same way. This practice is legitimate, or at any rate understandable. One naturally wishes to frame ancient and presumably eternal ideas in the terms that will make the most sense to one's contemporaries, but it has created a little noticed effect. Scientific terms and concepts as framed today characterize the entities they discuss as impersonal and inanimate. They are forces, not living beings. In the 6th century BCE, Thales of Miletus, the first thinker to explore the universe in a way that might be called scientific, insisted that all things are full of gods. No scientist would dare make such a statement today, even if he believed it. The Kybalion, then, is a part of a long-range trend in Western esoteric thought to move from the world of the personal. The Kybalion, then, is a part of a long-range trend in Western esoteric thought to move from a world of the personal, from spirits, angels, demons, and fairies, into the impersonal, vibration, polarity, causation. Some may automatically see this process as an advance or evolution of thought. I myself am not so sure. I do not believe so categorically either in the personal nature or in the impersonality of the forces that are being explored here. Rather, I would imagine these forces could look personal viewed from one angle and impersonal from another, the totality being something larger than our minds are likely to be able to apprehend. Hence, there is a major difference between the original Hermetic teachings and the New Thought-flavored doctrines of the Kybalion. The Corpus Hermeticum did not exist in a philosophical vacuum. Its highly elevated and abstruse dialogues form only a part of the ancient Hermetic literature. Much of the rest consists of magical texts, and scholars have become increasingly aware that these cannot be so easily divorced in content or inspiration from the more theoretical Hermetic writings. In short, the ancient Hermeticists probably did not use a type of new thought like mind power in their practice. Rather, they probably made use of such things as magical rituals, divination, as we see in most forms of ancient religion. The use of mind power, as we find it in the New Thought, seems to be very much an innovation of the 19th century, notably of the New England healer Phineas P. Quimby, and his spiritual descendants, including Mary Baker Eddy, founder of Christian Science. We now face the biggest and most difficult question of all. What value do the teachings of the Kybalion have? Are they true? There are many testimonials to the effects of thought power on events in the physical world, but then there are also countless cases, many of which we never hear about, in which these ideas simply did not work or did not work as expected. To speak personally again, I would endorse the basic idea of mind power. Indeed, there are levels of mind at which to think something is to make it happen. Nonetheless, the levels of the mind that possesses creative power are surrounded by heavy defenses in the psyche. For most people, they are inaccessible. You can force your way through these barricades with certain techniques and certain drugs. This may be what the traditional occult literature calls the confrontation with the dweller on the threshold. This term, used in Edward Bulwer Lytton's classic occult novel, Zanoni, refers essentially to this psychic barrier between the conscious and unconscious minds. But unless you are extremely well trained and well prepared, and probably even then, this attempt is likely to distort and injure the mind rather than enlightening it. All this as it should be. Do you really want the power to think something and instantly make it happen? Do you have the will and self-mastery that would require? In any case, I believe that thought power, in its ultimate form, both offers more power and presents more risks than many people would believe. As for the simpler and easier and less effective forms of thought power, positive suggestion and so on, I believe they also work, although in less dramatic ways. It certainly is better to be saying kind and cheering things to yourself than harmful and destructive ones. But I also believe there are limits to this practice. The subconscious knows when it is being lied to. As for the Kybalion specific teachings, my own opinion is that they are true, but it is not easy to grasp their essential connection from the terms it presents. Take the idea that the universe is entirely mental in nature. On the surface, this idea appears to be false. On the surface, it seems that there are at least two distinct types of events, mental events, that take place in one's mind. They are not publicly accessible, not at any rate without some type of communication. We normally distinguish between these and physical events, which are for the most part publicly accessible. If you and I are in the same room and there is a green lamp on the table, we will both see it. But as I have said in my book, The Dice Game of Shiva, How Consciousness Creates the Universe, there is more truth to the idea of mentalism than there may seem to be. We can understand it more clearly if we take the following viewpoint. There is that which experiences and that which is experienced. The former has many names in the world's traditions: the self, Atman, Purusha, the true I, Buddha nature, spirit. It is pure cognition. It has no contents of its own. Then there is that which is experienced. This includes the sum total of all experience, both physical and mental. It is variously known as Prakriti, the world, as in the Gospels, and even matter. But it is not matter as conventionally understood. It is simply that which is perceived in all forms. In this sense, a rock is matter, but so is the image of a rock in your mind. Prakriti is constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly altering. Hence, the Kybalion can tell us nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. In ordinary human consciousness, that which experiences is entangled with that which is experienced. We believe we are what we experience. We believe we are the thoughts and emotions that pass through the mind. We become what we behold. It can be difficult to detach the two, but I believe that this is precisely the goal of many forms of meditation. The self, as pure witness, watches all phenomena, mental and physical, inner and outer, pleasant and unpleasant, as images passing across the screen of the mind. In this sense, we can all say that all is mental. Notice also that the interaction between self and phenomena can itself vary. Self can identify with the contents of its experience, or it can detach itself from them. It seems likely to me that neither of these stances is absolute, and indeed they can alternate or appear to alternate rapidly in many cases. Self identifies with its contents, then it detaches itself from them. Let us go further and posit to say that this process takes place at all levels of manifestation, from that of the subatomic particle to the atom to our own level and beyond. It is, in my view, entirely legitimate to speak of the consciousness of the atom. If we posit some kind of process whereby this goes on constantly, shall we say habitually, we now see the source of the vibration that the Kybalion describes, and which, as it points out, is the standard feature of the universe, because this process takes place at all levels and scales of reality. We also see the source of this correspondence among all levels that the Kybalion assorts. In fact, these considerations help explain all the basic principles of the Kybalion. In addition to the ones I have just mentioned, we have polarity. This is the polarity between self and the world, between that which experiences and that which is experienced. Gender, self and other, that which experiences and that which is experienced correspond to the masculine and feminine, respectively. Rhythm, the perpetual alteration between identification and attachment between self and other, again at all levels, generates the rhythm of the universe. Cause and effect. What we observe as cause and effect is simply the operation and outcome of these processes. In any event, even if these few brief points can help us see the depth and fertility of the ideas of the Kybalion, they also help us see that these ideas are not merely an arbitrary string of axioms, but expressions of certain basic principles that, once understood, illumine them all. Illumine them all. Sorry, that was a bad ending for me. I think it basically means illuminate them all. So, that is the introduction to the Kybalion. Like I said, I know it's a really dense text. There's a lot to it. There's just a lot of things to it. It's not a religion per se, but it is a spiritual, practice and thought process. So it has the same density as a religious text. So yeah, just to give you an idea as to how that book is. That's just the foreword or the introduction. So yeah, the rest of the book is actually delves into the actual writer's text and thoughts and stuff and beliefs. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that reading of this esoteric, occult, Western tradition literature. I will definitely do some more stuff like this in the future. I have some ideas for the month of October. But yeah, I'll definitely do some more occult type stuff, where it goes, supernatural, paranormal, and anything in that kind of category, I guess. I could definitely do some more of that stuff as time goes on. And I will continue to do more video requests as time goes on as well, but I want to space those out a little bit. So, but yeah, I hope you guys liked that reading. I hope you guys find it interesting, and I hope you guys have a great day, great night, afternoon, whatever, whenever you're watching this. And, yeah, stay safe out there. And, yeah, I don't know. Thank you guys for 130 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, comment, like, and hit ring the bell for notifications, and I will see you guys next week.